This is Tomorrow the Birds by Osamu Tezuka. This was published earlier this year during the summer by Ablaze Publishing. This is the third of four planned books featuring Tezuka's work that have never been translated into English before, that are going to be translated into English for the first time. This is a story that was serialized in Japan from 1971 through 1975. And it's an interesting point in his career because up until through the 60s, his work was Astro Boy and just more like very kid-friendly, shonen-friendly type of work. And in the 80s, he became a little bit jaded, a little bit angry that he was considered, out of touch and kind of past his prime. So his stories got a lot darker, very dark sometimes. Like MW is extremely dark. Letter to Adolf is excellent but dark. This is an interesting time because this is the 70s where you're starting to get away from doing the kids stuff and more teen and young adult type of work. So, and his art, I think, changed a little bit too. So the premise of this book is that through reasons that are shown later on, birds gain the intellect of human beings, and they are pissed off at humanity and basically are hell-bent on the destruction of humanity and just taking over the world because they believe they're the superior race. That sounds like sort of a takeoff on Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds, and there are elements of that early on, but this book, the stories take place over thousands of years. So it's takes on almost like a Planet of the Apes style of approach, where it starts off in present day and then it's in the future and then it's a few hundred years after that and then maybe 1,000 years after that, so on and so on and so on. And there's political commentary. There is commentary as far as, is it just human beings that are destructive and hell-bent on destroying themselves, or is it the creatures that once they gain a certain level of intelligence, does that make you more open to being like maybe not the best species as far as like taking care of each other? None of those questions are answered, but it is interesting. It's an interesting way to look at what happens as these birds, as they gain intellect and as hundreds and thousands of years pass by, they act more human. And what happens to the humans. It's a really interesting set of stories. In the notes that are provided here, Tezuka said he ended it in 75 because he was getting tired of it and he didn't want to keep going on. But I think the way it ends, and I think that it opens up possibilities like, oh, and I don't know, and maybe that you can expect in your mind what happened, but it's to me a satisfying ending. One thing that I've noticed with Tezuka's later work, like in the 70s, is that you'll see more and more of these pages with this beautiful detail here, these drawings, and he'll intersperse these different species of birds and the stories. I mean, this looks very familiar to Tezuka fans, this style of work. So it's like, okay, well, it looks like, Astro Boy, or it looks like all these other things, but then when you have these chapter breaks, you'll have these different bird species, and then you'll also have a lot more of these landscapes, which is something that I noticed in his work in the 80s especially, where you see a lot more of this detailed landscape and background, and then you have this, which is more traditional clean line type of work that he's known for. It's a really good book. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoy reading Tezuka, and I'm glad that his work is still being published and that new work is being translated into English. And this book retails for $14.99. You get 300 plus pages of story and art. It's a great package. It's a good read. I really like this quite a bit. And you can't beat it. It's a great deal. So if you're a Tezuka fan, you should go out and get it just because I think it's a great deal. It's a good story. And, Tezuka is the god of manga. So you're not going to read anybody doing it better. Anyway, that's all I just wanted to say. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was a great read. And I'm looking forward to the next edition that Ablaze is coming out with, which I believe has been rescheduled to early 2025. So I'm happy to see more Tezuka being published, and new for us in America, Tezuka being published, because his people don't really realize how prolific his career was in America unless you really research and find out, because you've only seen like a tiny drop of all the work he ever did. That's it. Thanks.